Arizona football continues to overhaul the offensive line. What do we need to know about the offensive line last year? What does it mean for it going this forward this year? All of that and more.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by Gametime. Check it out with Gametime. All kinds of really, really good stuff. The thing about Gametime as well is that today's you can create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Check it out. All right. The Arizona offensive line last year was not good. I'm not really breaking any news there. It just was not good. And there's really no other way to put it other than it should have been a lot better. I keep going back to that. I think that was the most disappointing part of the team. And you could say, well, Mike, what about the offense? Well, that obviously was part of that. But the offensive line was just incredibly disappointing. And again, like I said, there's really no other way around that one. And you look at it too, I get that Brent Brennan got in late. I totally get all of that. I appreciate that point. But at the same time, you've also got a situation where you had three really, really high quality offensive linemen that were returning. Josh Baker was a 3-year starter. Then you've got Wendell Moy, who was showing up on a lot of NFL draft boards. That one, obviously, that stings as well. Then you've also got somebody in Jonas Sabanea that was a generational offensive line talent at Arizona. Guys like that generally don't come through the U of A very often. As a matter of fact, they never come through here, actually, outside of last year with Jordan Morgan. But you should have been able to cobble something good together, and I think that's the part that is so frustrating for so many people, including myself, is that why was this such an issue? And I think that is the part that is just very frustrating about all of that, is that it shouldn't have been, in my opinion, it shouldn't have been like that. So what does this mean then going forward for the Wildcats? And I think that's going to be something. Listen, you've got a couple guys that I think are good enough to be able to, keep the reins steady. If Big Rhino, I like Big Rhino. I like Big Rhino. If Big Rhino is healthy, I think that he can be a pretty good player on the offensive line. One thing that I never understood though at all was why wasn't he on that? Why was he at left tackle? To me, he should have been a right tackle. That one made absolutely no sense to me. But to each unto his own. That, like I said, that just didn't make a ton of sense to me. Then I like Alexander Deuce. I think the Deuce boost. I think he can do some pretty good things out there. But again, those are two guys really, and that's not good enough in my opinion. You got to be able to have some more players. And to this coaching staff's credit, they are doing exactly that. Now, some of these guys have not played. Some of these guys have played a little bit, and we're going to find out exactly what they're made of and what they can do. The first one that I look at though, and I'm like, okay. That's somebody that has got to be able to make a difference. And I would say that first one is, and you're looking at it because if you're bringing guys that are multi-year starters, you're looking at them to be able to play immediately. And Kiana DeCambra, that's the dude on the offensive line. He was one of the better offensive tackles. Again, you're at Hawaii, but you're one of the better offensive tackles on the in that conference. He's going to be an interior offensive lineman. You're going to need him to play. You're going to need him to come out and be good pretty much immediately. So there's obviously that. Then you've got somebody, but like I said, and he's got a lot of credits built up. I mean, he's done some really, really good stuff on the football field, and guys like that are generally exciting to. You're generally excited to see at least what you can do with those type of players. Now, I think the other thing too that's going to be fascinating for me is where are we at then when it comes to some of these other guys on the team? Because again, tackle is going to be a huge part of what Arizona wants to do. I think you're hoping that Ty Buchanan can be another one of those from Texas Tech. Again, this is a little bit more not somebody with a super long track record, but again, there's playing time to be had, and that's kind of what I keep coming back to as well. Is that there is playing time to be had for Arizona football, and watching this team, I think you know pretty quickly that where everything is going to rely on that. So there's that. But Buchanan, another one. You hope the big Rhino can stay healthy. Also, there's a couple other guys that I think that we need to keep in the mix as well that are coming back that might have that the coaching staff I think has some kind of affinity for. Michael Wooten. I don't see it with Michael Wooten. I would love to be wrong. I don't see it with Michael Wooten though. Who knows? Maybe I do turn out to be wrong, but I don't see it with him. But again, a talented football player. Not only is he a talent, I mean, but when you look at him, he just doesn't really look the part. He's kind of top heavy. The bend just doesn't appear to be there, but we'll see exactly how that one does play out. Then on top of that, you also have somebody. You also might have you might have some. You might have another guy in Matthew Lotto. I like Matthew Lotto, and not only do I like Matthew Lotto, it is he's a guy that I feel better about him being one of those guys that can be a starter. If Matthew Lotto is the dude who is, how do I put this? If he is if he's starting, you're certainly hoping that's because he is developed. Now, my guy Jacob Saliga, I think, put it really well, where he said that he found him to be a very enticing player. If I'm not mistaken, he is somebody that I think he thought has a lot of potential, and there's going to be some of that. So we will see. But Matthew Lotto, I like Matthew Lotto. Like I said, he had to rebuild his body entirely, though. Arizona was able to keep him, and he's another option to tackle. The thing that we're going to keep coming back to is the thing that I'm going to keep coming back to though is where is the where does this come then from as far as bodies? Who is a body? Because last year Arizona had bodies, but they weren't good. Like Kylan Gonzalez wasn't good. Elijah Payne was not good. Who are some of those guys that could possibly be good? Can Ty Buchanan be that? I don't know, and I think that's the question that a lot of people don't know, and we'll find that one out. But that's kind of where it's at with that. Now, at the center position, that's obviously going to be something interesting as well. How is that all going to play out? Because, again, last year, it's with all due respect, but some guys like a Grayson Stovall, that just wasn't an option. And I love Grayson Stovall, but that just wasn't really an option. So you're going to have to see. Arizona is far from done here on the offensive line as well. Tristan Bounds is another one. This is the epitome of the guy that I'm kind of talking about. Just because it is didn't play at Michigan. Just because he didn't play at Michigan doesn't mean that he can't play here at the University of Arizona. And that's what I always keep coming back to with things like this. Is that, like I said, it's the Big Bill Norton rule. That just because you didn't play at Georgia doesn't mean that you can't play here and be really good. I mean, heck, shout out Big Bill Norton, by the way. Big Bill Norton has been a difference maker at the University of Texas. Not only has he been a difference maker, he has been somebody that would have been Arizona's best defensive lineman at the U of A, and it would have been best defensive lineman by a mile. So there is that. But but Tristan Bounds is another one. I mean, he might stink. He might not be any good. I mean, there's certain guys that come in here and you just see that they're in a major school and they were just a missy valve. But it's still another body, and that's something that you need, because last year Arizona just didn't have bodies, but you had three guys, and there are still some major concerns that I have with that. So there is that. We will see that. We will see that one does play out though, but it's going to be fascinating. There's a lot that's going to be going down here. Now, we're going to talk about Josh Oglesby here in a second, because I think he's kind of the elephant in the room for some of this stuff. But first, FanDuel, All right, here's the deal with FanDuel. All kinds of good stuff. As you know, you could put down $5 if you're a new customer with the playoffs. With the playoffs almost here, and not only the playoffs here, with some other stuff going on, you can check out at FanDuel. Here's the deal: you put down $5 if you're a new customer, and that bet hits, you get $250 in free plays. Not 150, but 250. Is there anything better than that? You got games coming up. You got air. You got. I mean, heck, you want to go all in on Texas against ASU? Do it. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot going on there, but either way, check it out though at FanDuel. The great thing about FanDuel as well is that you know your money is good. This is the most enjoyable time of the year. And the most enjoyable time of the year also means more betting. So again, check it out, FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Again, put down $5, $250 in free plays if you're a new customer and that bet hits. It's that simple. It is that easy. Find out what everybody is doing. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now with the let's talk a little bit about where we are at now when it comes to Arizona and the when it comes to Arizona and when it comes to what were you really looking for from a coach. And I think the a big thing is you've got to be able to find out where what Josh Oglesby is as a coach, and that's the one that I don't really know. Josh Oglesby is he's a fan. Brent Brennan loves him. And Oglesby came in here. Not only did he come in here, um, he came in here and he did a poor job. And I'm going to keep saying this. Anytime you have three quality offensive linemen, I think that you should be able to buoy that by bringing in somebody that can play. And you just weren't able to really do that, and that is the problem. It also felt like there were definitely some favorites being played. Ryan Stewart never really got that one. That was kind of the epitome of an OKG. But I don't know that Oglesby. I don't think it's fair to say that Oglesby did a good job. And that is, I think that is a problem. That is a problem. And so there is that. If if you look at this team though, and you look at it though, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? I think a lot of this is going to be on Seth Doege. Doege has talked about, he knows that he needs to overhaul the offensive line. And not only does I know he needs to overhaul the offensive line, I think he knows that he's going to have to get the ball out quick this year. Now, they've done a very nice job in the wide receiver room. And not only have they done a very nice job in the wide receiver room, they've done a good job at the running back position as well. If the offensive line can be passable, I don't know why the offense can't be passable. That's what we're going to find out. And that's kind of where it's at. When I look at this Arizona team, I I do think that there is one thing though that you do know that Noah Fafita is going to have to get protection. The one thing about this team last year that you saw is that Noah Fafita, he looked kind of shell shocked at the end, and and the thing that's kind of disappointing too is that people would be like, "Oh, well, he's wide open, this and that." I think he got hit so much; it was kind of the David Carr effect, where you didn't really know, where that next hit was coming from, and you start seeing things, you start hearing things, and it just messes stuff up. Noah Fafita is back, and I think Noah Fafita is going to answer a lot of questions for it. And the one thing about it is, I think that with Noah Fafita, you do know that he can play. To what level he can play, I don't know. But he might be somewhere in between that national freshman of the year and a guy who is, a good quarterback. But he can definitely play. He was a lot better than he showed last year. But also, too, I think you also had an offensive system that was obviously, when you've got Noah Fafita running back 20 yards to throw, that just can't be the case. And you weren't able to really get in any other good wide receivers. Chris Hunter did develop, so I'm going to give him that. But between Chris Hudson, Chris Hunter, and Luke Wysong, I expect Arizona to be have a pretty decent wide receiver core. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the one thing about it though too that we're also fascinated by is where are you then with the what you want to do? And I think you've got to be kind of a quick. I think you've got to be kind of a quick hit offense here, and I think that's something that Doege has talked about. And I'm going to be interested to see how that does play out then with where what how do I put this with what Oglesby wants to do. Oglesby is kind of the epitome of somebody to me that he shouldn't be guaranteed anything. I don't really understand the guaranteed process of that. That makes no sense to me. Not only does that make no sense to me, um, not only does that make no sense to me, it also makes no sense that uh, there's going to be. We'll find out. I don't know. Like I said, we'll find out. Now, let's talk a little bit about the running back room then. Who's going to be running behind him? I like Alonzo Carter. One thing that we need to be clear about: a lot of people say with Alonzo Carter that you're like, well, what's his deal? What's his deal really with last year the running game wasn't good. Quali Conley was a fine backup running back. I mean, you look at it, the dude rushed for 800 yards and 8 or 9 touchdowns. He was fine. Kedrick Reesano was fine. It was that bell cow was supposed to be Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. So consider, and again, Alonzo Carter, he's not an admissions officer. So there's obviously that. So I don't put that in there. But Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt looked like he was going to be a little different, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he does play in the NFL. If he's good in the NFL. So there is that. Now, one thing that is exciting too is that you've just added Ishmael Mahdi, and I think with Ishmael Mahdi, the one thing that's also exciting about it is he's a burner and he's uber productive. I like guys that are productive. Again, Quali Conley was very productive at San Jose State, and if Quali Conley was just having to do, as a backup, he would have been great. But in a starter, he's a little bit limited in that regard, but he was fine. Alonzo Carter's always going to have a good running backs room, so I don't worry about that. He's the best recruiter on the staff by a mile. He's somebody that the players relate to, and like I said, that's going to be just fine. As far as the tight ends go, I think you're probably going to see Kellen Ford. Kellen Ford, he could play early. Now, I am going to be curious to see if there is if there is something where I just don't want to see the San Jose State bias kind of that we saw last year. With your Stewarts, with your Sam Olsons, guys like that. I don't want to see that. Listen, because moving over to the other side of the ball, which we're going to do here in just a second, it's going to be interesting to see how this all does play out. But overall, I think it's fair to say that this is this coaching staff I think has done a fairly good job, and I can't really sit here and say that they haven't this off season. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like what happened last year didn't happen, because it did, and that's always going to be something, because I think that, you just blew a really, really good opportunity, and I think that's something that you can't really look past. But again, at the end of the day, you still want Arizona to win, and that's what I keep coming back to, is that I want Arizona to win, and, the people that are like, well, you just got to root against him. Well, he's back. Brent Brennan's back, so I can't sit here and just say, well, let's root. So we will find out. I'm not optimistic, but I will say that so far, I think they've done a much better job with the. I think they've done a much better job with the transfer portal. That's something that they had to do. You've got playing time. You've got positions available. You had to be able to hit on those ones, and we'll find out. But they've added some pieces. They obviously know what they want to do. And like I said from day one, the Seth Doege one is a big hire for me. I like that one a great deal, mainly because he is a young offensive mind. Now, let's talk a little bit about what that defense is going to bring here in just a second. But first, game time. Check it out. Game time, my friends. Game time. Okay, here's the great thing about game time is that this works for all kinds of different things. Here's the deal. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app. What time is it? Game time. All right, now here's the deal. You can get you can talk all kinds of cool things on the app. App features customize your spot and the supplemental as inspiration. Again, they can help you out with all kinds of different things from game tickets to rock concerts. You name it, Game Time's got it. Check it out at Game Time because again, everybody is using Game Time. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk on the defensive side of the football. On the defensive side of the football, it's going to be interesting because Javion Cole is going to be one of those starters. He's going to be really, really good. So there's obviously that. He's just another guy. Just because he didn't play at Texas doesn't mean he can't play here. So people need to remember that. I'm not as big on Dansby. You look at some of San Jose State fans have reached out to me. I know that and on the message boards, I don't think that people are huge. He's burner, but that's a position that I think Marquise Groves-Killebrew needs to be that dude. And Marquise Groves-Killebrew, not only does he need to be that dude, he needs to step in there and he needs to be that guy. So there's obviously that. Then the next thing that I think you need to look at is where is Arizona now at that linebacker spot. Now again, Gotcher, you just added the leading tackler in FCS. That makes me optimistic. You lose Jacob Manu, you bring somebody else in. You got Tay Brown in there as well. But again, hope always springs eternal. We'll find out how this does play out. But overall, they're addressing some of the things. Now, the D-line, still not nearly good enough. I know because here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know if Chancellor Owens is good or not. I don't think anybody knows if Chancellor Owens is good or not. And again, that's not really a knock on Chancellor Owens. That's just that you're at Northwestern State. And that you're not at Northwestern, you're at Northwestern State. But, again, you got Trey Smith back. That's not bad. Isaiah Johnson is back. You got Chuba. We know the coaching staff loves Chuba a great deal. So you're bringing in a massive defensive lineman as well. We'll see how that one does play out. But overall, again, this is kind of something where I just need the defense to just be passable. And don't run off good players. Can't have the Russell Davis. Can't have the Big Bill Nortons. Can't have any of that. So there is that. So you've obviously got something to work with there as well. Now, the other thing too that we need to talk about as well is just what are expectations for this team, and we're going to talk about that. What does Brent Brennan need to show? And we're going to talk about that a lot tomorrow. What from a coaching perspective, from a win-loss perspective, from an identity perspective, what do the Wildcats need to show? And I think that's going to be something that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that does play out. First thing I want to see is just an identity. With the identity, that's just the big thing for me is how does this team all play out? And that's where I don't really get into. Are you going to be a run heavy? Are you going to, because again, at the run raid, as they called it at Marshall, but you've also got a guy in Seth Doege that has played at Texas Tech. That's why I'm intrigued by who he is. And you can just tell by watching him that this dude is going to be a head coach at some time. He's already obviously an offensive coordinator. He's got to work. He's hit the ground running. I'm excited to see how that plays out. We will find out what that identity is because there has to be an identity. If there's not an identity, then things have gone wrong and we can't have that. You need to be able to have an identity if you're an Arizona football coach. So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're also going to talk a little bit of Arizona basketball. Again, basketball right around the corner, Big 12 play. How do we feel going into Big 12 play? The only thing I'll say is that Caleb Love looks a lot better. I liked seeing Emmanuel Stephen get some minutes. I thought that was pretty cool as well. But you know how we all roll around here. You just got to keep knocking this one out of the park. But Arizona football so far so good. Again, it's with a grain of salt after what happened last season, but you can only go by what you're forgive but don't forget. How about that? But We'll find out. We'll find out what should those expectations be from a win-loss perspective, from an identity perspective, from a million different perspectives. And that's something that I think that everybody needs to kind of have as their expectations for next season. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Excuse me. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow. TTFN, as the cool kids like to say.